Welcome back to Operator Syndrome. I'm Patrick here with Steve. We're in the middle of Hell Week. We're doing it. Okay. We're surviving. We wanted to start this one off. I had a question for Steve, and I think everyone's wondering this. So, how many bathroom breaks do you get during Hell Week?
Man, that's one that well, so there's two modes of going to the bathroom, of course. The number two mode, I feel the best I could recollect was most of the time at the chow hall. Because we were there 4 times a day. We had breakfast, lunch, dinner, and midnight rations,
Mm-hmm.
and they fed us well. And I just remember, yeah, just go. That was the only time you really had any freedom apart from just getting hammered. And then the number one option, it was like, you got to remember, we're in and out of the surf zone like every hour at least, and sometimes more than that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we didn't change clothes the entire week. In fact, our feet were so swollen. They told us that the instructor said, do not loosen up your boots or take your boots off because your feet are going to swell and you can't get them back in your boots.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would just pee our pants. And it actually, when you were in the ocean, it felt quite good. It was a little warmth in the midst of frigid temperatures. So it was no big deal at all to just let go. And that's just the rawness of it. I mean, there were other times we had to do that kind of stuff too, like in sniper school on a stalk. I mean, we had stalks that were 3-4 hours or more.
Mm-hmm.
And what are you going to do? You can't move. You're so, yeah, it was just one of those things. But yeah, that was, yeah, the practical matters. It's funny. Yeah, I just don't even almost, they didn't almost register, but momentary bits of relief here and there.
I I'll interject. I wouldn't be a ranger if I didn't interject this whole week story to tell a ranger school story.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I did that became customary for me is every morning you wake up in your patrol base and you would go admin, as they said. So the entire time when you're out in the field, you're supposed to be pretending like,
Mhm.
there's an enemy out there and they can attack you and whatever.
Yeah.
And there are people out there. There's the op four out there who are in fact able to attack you and whatnot. But in the patrol base, so you wake up and you go admin for foot checks to see if
Right.
or anything else you got going. You got a
Right.
little aches. A medic comes around, and you're not supposed. You call it going admin, but if you're not actively involved in a foot check or doing something else, that's also the time
Yeah.
where they change out leadership for that day,
Yeah.
that morning's patrols. So what I ended up doing and what became a habit for me is I would steal that time. They would say, "Okay, you're admin." I would I would see when about I was going to get my foot checked. I'd grab an e-tool and I'd walk off into the woods by myself. All things you're not supposed to do. And I would go out and every morning I would take a shit in
Yeah.
peace by myself in the woods, collect my thoughts, and survive for the next day. I would
Yeah.
steal a moment for myself to try to make it through that thing. And so part of that question was also you don't quite remember it.
Yeah.
You may have been rushed, but I stole the time for some introspection.
It's the simple pleasures
It
in
is.
times of duress.
It
It's the
is.
small things.
It is absolutely the small things.
Yeah, actually, now that you jogged a memory of mine. We had, I think it started on Monday. Hell Week started on Sunday night. So on Monday, once a day, we had a full physical. They took our vitals. A medical doctor, I mean, went through us and took our temperature, everything, just to make sure we weren't going to croak or something.
Hmm.
And then they started doing it twice a day, starting like on Tuesday night or Wednesday, because we were fried. And two about three or four or five guys out of the Hell Week class that didn't quit ended up in Balboa Naval Medical Center. I mean, they had all kinds of issues. But yeah, it was during those, though, that was another break when we were all lined up to see the doc. And we could break off and use the facilities if we had to. That was another
Mhm.
time. Yeah, it's funny, you don't remember those little times. You remember getting killed 24/7, but
Right.
yeah, anyway, yeah. So we were, like I was saying too, we were hallucinating by Wednesday. And
Mhm.
if you could make it to Wednesday, I really don't remember anybody quitting. I think maybe one or two guys got rolled, but I think if you made it to Thursday and you had some major physical thing flare up, I think they forward rolled you. They're just like, this guy's not going to quit.
Oh,
I
wow,
think they
really?
knew that. Or yeah, or I don't know. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the way it was. Thursday or Friday, you were pretty much set, because
Mhm.
if your body like completely gave out. Like
Mhm.
I started having trouble on Friday with my knee. It was an old football injury that I mentioned before, and I could barely walk, man. But I was just like club footing it along. I wasn't
Mhm.
quitting, and they're like, Watkins, what's your problem, man? And I'm like, my knee hurts, but screw that, I'm not ringing that bell. So
Right.
they were like, they could kind of see the fear of God in my eyes that I wasn't going to quit. But a couple of the psychological things that were really weird. Some of the stuff that messed with me the most is when we started tripping out, like on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, from sleep deprivation. Just, I mean, we didn't. The question is, how much sleep do you get in Hell Week? Maybe an hour or two. It's all I can ever remember. You get 5 minutes here if you won a boat crew race. You'd get, but it's not REM sleep. It's not like
Right.
really quality sleep. It's just like cat naps. And I remember, I'll tell you the sickest thing that happened to us. I don't think it was Tuesday night or Wednesday night. It was one of those days. The instructors came in and they're playing these mind games with you. And part of the thing that kills you about SEAL instructors is they don't just yell and scream and, like Marine boot camp. They're sly, and they use sarcasm and this dark humor that really messes with you more than just getting screamed at. And so I remember they told us, it was like, I think it was Tuesday night, and we were just, I mean, we're fried, man. We've been going for over 48 hours. And they said, oh, okay, you guys are the best Hell Week class we've ever seen. You guys are top-notch performers. And tell you what, we're going to give you what we've never done before in SEAL training. We're going to let you guys sleep tonight in your bed. So go get comfy in your beds and have a nice nap. And we'll wake you up in the morning. And I'm going, this can't be real. But we needed sleep so bad. So we went in our barracks rooms, and they said, don't get out of your uniforms now. Just wrap up in those blankets and have a nice nap. And I remember looking at the alarm clock next to my bed and thinking, I wonder how long this is going to last. All I remember is it took me a matter of seconds to fall deeply to sleep. I mean, I was so tired. I just wrapped up in this wool military issue blanket, and I was gone. And then I think it was 10 minutes later, flashbangs. Yeah, what the hell are you guys doing? Sleeping. Who said you could sleep? It was like, I don't know, you know. And then they just hammered the crap out of us. It was like a mini breakout all over again, like
Nice.
surf zone. It was like, oh man, I was just reaching that happy place. And that really messed with us. And this older master chief used to come out, and we had two foreign nationals in our training class, a guy from Greece, from the Greek Navy, and a guy from Ecuador. And what I found out is the standards were relaxed for those guys. They didn't, it was kind of a good neighbor policy thing. And I
Mhm.
mean, they had to go through some hard stuff, but
Right.
they got cut a little bit more slack because of,
Right.
it's a long story, maybe we'll get into one day. But anyhow, this guy from Ecuador, he couldn't speak English too well. He was an Ecuadorian officer, like a O2, I think. And this master chief would come out with a bullhorn, and he came on in a shift at night usually, I remember. And he would always say, we had a standard attention, in our boat cruise. And the master chief would come out, and he said this over and over again, to where it really started to mess with me. He would say, excuse me, is there anybody here from Ecuador? And Ensign Poveda was his name. He'd go, yes, Master Chief, I'm from Ecuador. And he goes, you are from Ecuador? How interesting. I've never been to Ecuador. Tell us about Ecuador. And he'd be just, well, you see, and he couldn't speak really good English. He was trying his best. But in night after night, he would come out and it would be the same thing. Is there, by the way, is there anyone here from Ecuador? And it was just like, man, it started to mess with me. I'm like, God, is this Groundhog Day? Well, what's happening? But it was just all kinds of games like that. And yeah, mental stuff. But they did ease up on us because by the end of Hell Week, we just couldn't keep going anymore. Or, you know, our bodies were shot. So they would do simple things.
What about I think I've heard, I don't know where I've heard it, but what about trying to like tell you it's a different day? Tell you it's a different day? Any of that? Like it's actually Thursday, but they're saying,
Yeah.
it's Wednesday or something like that. Anything like that?
They did all kinds of that stuff. I just honestly, and I've told this to many people, between Wednesday and getting secured Saturday morning, I don't remember anything
Mm.
really.
Mhm.
My memory is not reliable. It's just fragmented, and I don't even trust it. I I think we did some stuff, and then I think back on them, and then I would ask other guys like Kev and guys who were, it's like, did we do this? And they're like, yeah, something like that, but I don't know when it was. So it was
Right.
just all a just mishmash of, I don't know, weirdness.
So
But
so what
yeah,
about that moment when you do get secured? What was it like? How did they let you know? Do you remember that part at least?
yeah. The commanding officer comes out and yeah, they had us lined up, getting ready to hit the surf again for the umpteenth time. And they're like, all right. And then they said about face, and we all turn around and there's a CO, and we're like, oh, I guess he's gonna hammer us now. And he was like, hey, congratulations, class 149, you're secured from Hell Week. And we were still kind of didn't trust anything. We are like, is this just another, yeah, go have a nap in the bed and there's going to be flashbangs to follow? It
Right.
was really a surreal moment. And it was, I mean, we kind of said "hoo-yah" because that's what we said at everything, good, bad, and indifferent. We would just say "hoo-yah," and he goes, "No, seriously, you guys did a good job." And we're like, "Okay, now what?" And they're like, "Go back to your barracks and go to sleep." And it was just, even that was almost a surreal kind of a thing
Mhm.
because you know, it was just this messing with our heads. We thought it's too good to be true. So, but yeah, it was. And I remember we all went back and we did take off our boots at that point. We had to wear flip-flops for like 3 days because our
Mm.
feet were so swollen, hands were swollen. um we were all chafed raw. We had to like put like antiseptic ointment on ourselves, rubbed raw on all the places where sand gets in your uniform,
Right.
underarms, waist. And I remember I slept for like, it was like pushing 20 hours. And I woke up, shuffled to the head, and peed for like 2 minutes straight. And went back to
Nice.
bed and slept for like another 10 hours. And then Kevin and I'll never forget, like Sunday, they gave us like Monday and Tuesday were just really low, no problem. It was training, it was classes. So, but we were given a lot. They eased up on us for like 3 or 4 days in a row because we had to heal. I mean, we were so broken. And
Mhm.
Kevin and I got the brilliant idea that we go to a double feature, playing a movie, playing in Imperial Beach. And it was some stupid movie, two of them back to back. We went in. I remember we were shoveling some popcorn in our mouth. We went to sleep and we woke up and the credits were playing at the second movie. And I said, hey man, did you see any of that movie? And he's like, no, did you? I'm like, nope. And we went back and went to sleep again. But anyway, yeah, Hell Week was over at that point.
Is Hell Week the culmination of first phase?
No, it's actually, it's like the fourth or fifth week into first phase, which is each phase is 2 months. So you have first phase, which is just physical. That's all they call it, physical phase. It's just
Mhm.
beating you to a pulp. after Hell Week, they actually start teaching you some stuff, and you can also see a difference in the instructor's attitude toward you. They're like, all right, these guys are pretty hard. They're not going to quit. And it was, oh, and you get to, after Hell Week, you go from wearing a white t-shirt to a green t-shirt. So that was a big benchmark, because if you see a guy in buds with a green t-shirt, you know he's made it through Hell Week. And that's like a high, it was a big deal for everybody. But yeah, that was pretty much it. And there were about three and a half weeks left of training after Hell Week. And then you move into, now see, when I did it, second phase was land warfare. Now currently I think that still they switched it. It's dive phase is second phase, and land warfare is third phase. But it really didn't matter which order that came into me. But I think it's, yeah. So we moved into land
So
warfare.
what is it so after Hell Week, you got a few weeks left. What is it they taught you? What is it they were instructing you on? Was it in preparation for the land
Yeah.
warfare phase, or was it,
Yeah.
what was the curriculum like?
Yeah. The curriculum, as best I can tell, was like basic, like M16, how to break down
Okay.
your
All right.
AR or whatever they call them now, M4 and
Mhm.
whatever.
Right.
You know, first aid, basic first aid, not
Okay.
serious combat stuff, you know, stuff like that along those lines, you know, just kind of meathead classes. And then in land warfare, that's when you get in our second phase, which is now third phase, you get into demolitions, you get into some serious stuff like how to do charge calculations, use det cord, haversacks, C4, and then fire and movement, weapons, all kinds of weapons, and then how to maneuver, how to start maneuvering as a squad or a platoon. But mostly it was on a squad level,
Are there
which for SEALs was 8 guys. Yeah.
squad is 8 guy? Okay. Are there any moments about that second phase that stuck out to you?
Yeah. Yeah. We went out. The first half was at in the San Diego area. And there, man, there's so many stories. It's kind of silly, but the second part of that phase was called San Clemente Island, and it's like 100 miles off the coast of LA. It's an all military island, and they do, half of the island is a gunnery range for our ships, for the big naval ships. On the north side of the island is where it's all SEAL camp, a base camp for buds basically. And I don't know, it's a weird place because there's nobody else out there but our cadre. And they used to say, oh, get ready for a fun time on San Clemente Island where no one can hear you scream. You meaning, you know, and they hammered us pretty hard out there. That's where I had the incident at the chow hall where a guy kicked me and punched me, you know, coming out. And that's when you're getting really physically hard. I mean, we had a 7-mile ocean swim, which was a benchmark during that phase. We had a guy die on that swim, John Tomlinson, God rest his soul. We think he had just a leaky wetsuit. They were just giving you these secondhand wetsuits. It's not like it was really custom fitted like it should be. But in any case, it's freezing cold and you're swimming for hours, like as hard as you can against a current. And man, he hyped out, and he was a tough dude, and he just swam till he couldn't swim anymore. And his swim buddy was like, he went tits up. I mean, he just was totally out. His swim buddy's like, whoa, dude, you know, sends off a flare, and you know, safety boat comes over, like, what's the deal? They're like, I don't know, he's not responsive. And you know, by the time they got life flight there
Mhm.
from wherever, LA, or I don't know where it came from, his inner core temperature was in the 80s.
Wow.
So he was done. He was cooked, and or not cooked. He was the opposite.
Right.
But yeah, I never brought him back. But yeah, that was a big one. And then we had FTX operations, which were, you know, rudimentary. Like you get in way more advanced training, but it seems like a big deal at the time because you got to go out with your squad, hit a target, and the instructors are the aggressors. So they're, you know, they're not giving you an easy time. A lot of humping, a lot of rucking, fire and movement. And I think, yeah, we started using live ammo in some basic fire and movement. I mean, you get into the teams and it gets a lot more advanced, but we are actually using some live ammo doing fire and movement, which not every military unit does until they get on a certain level.
Hmm.
And we were doing some of that, but
Did
they were
you
watching us real carefully when we did that.
the change from first phase to second phase? Did you observe any difference in quality or attitudes in the instructors?
Yeah.
Could you feel something different?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they were a lot more knowledge oriented and they still hammered us quite a bit, but it was more to reinforce a very important point, not just needlessly, trying to make us quit. It was like if somebody screwed something up or crimped a cap wrong, or they were it was usually safety oriented stuff that they would hammer us for, just to sink it into our heads that is a really bad mistake, because we didn't know. It's so much of it's knowledge, and you don't know at that point you don't know how much is really important and how much is whatever. So but it was a lot of different, much more knowledge based training, and they weren't just killing us for no reason by and large.
Okay.
And
And you said that the exercises you were going through, it was all at the squad level. So 8 folks doing a raid, doing not maybe not a raid, but doing an
yeah,
ambush, doing a reconnaissance, that type of stuff.
yeah, yeah, pretty much. It wasn't exactly 8 all the time, because they only had so many and they have to divide you so many ways
Right.
depending on how many people quit, but it was between 6 and 8. It was a boat crew level. I mean, we were still doing a boat crew level, but for us, a boat crew was about a squad, which was half a platoon, so
Mhm.
16. Now, when I was in, the platoon size even changed. In the time I was in, it went from 14 to 16. So 7-man squad versus an 8-man squad, but
Mhm.
roughly the same size. So,
Yeah, I'm trying to think about. Yeah, I guess we would do the same.
mhm,
In a training environment, I don't remember doing anything in Ranger School. You at one point you operate in squads, but the squads are insanely large. They're like 14 dudes,
yeah,
14 people in the squad. In terms of like once I was in the battalion, you would do squad exercises, and then you'd be like 8, 9. You wish like you
yeah,
like you're supposed to be 9, but there were never enough Rangers to fill out the squads at the time. So you could
right,
be 5 people in a squad.
right.
Um, but like we've talked about before, Rangers operate traditionally in larger, you know, units. So platoon minimum.
What's a ranger platoon? A typical ranger
So
platoon?
I think according to like the field manuals or whatever, I think ranger platoons are organized the same number authorized, the same number of folks as like a regular infantry platoon. So it's like, so it's 4 squads of 9,
Huh.
9, I think traditionally. So, you got a good number of folks there. But like I
Yeah.
said, when I was in, like we just couldn't keep enough. It was 2 things. You weren't getting
Mhm.
enough Rangers in to begin with,
Yeah.
and as I'll talk about later on, you can't keep enough Rangers around. You're just
Right.
constantly kicking people out. So, so yeah, it was tough. Like I've been in squads of 3 people.
Jeez.
It's it got insane at some points.
Yeah.
So, but okay. So that's land warfare, and so you finish land warfare, and you're feeling like you're Rambo at this point.
Oh,
Like you're
yeah. You get back from the island, and we all said it. We're like, man, those guys look different when they come back from the island. They just look hard and chiseled,
yeah.
and they really are. I mean, you're just God. The physical stuff keeps getting harder and harder. You got to remember,
Hmm.
first phase, yeah, it's physical phase, and they kick the crap out of you. But by the time you're at the end of second phase, you're like way outperforming anything in first phase. And you had to, like, before every meal at the island, you had to either climb this insane rope to the top. I don't know how high it was, but it was high up there. climb it back down, and then sprint up a hill, a straight sprint up called a frog run. And they timed you, man. And if you didn't make it in 60 seconds to the top of this hill, it was like a quarter mile up, you had to get wet and eat an MRE. You get wet in the surf zone and eat a
Ooh,
cold MRE. That was your, yeah. And you had to put out to make it to that top of that hill. That's all I remember. It was never easy. It was never an easy run. And then if you didn't do that, then you had to do 20 pull-ups, 20 dips, 20 push-ups before you get to go in the chow hall. I mean, 3 times a day, So on top of all of the physical stuff they're putting you
right.
through. So it's just like, I don't know, man. You're getting in like triathlon shape by the time you're done. You can just go, 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 go. There's no more, there's no more throttling back. So then you go, yeah, when we get back from the island, it's getting ready for dive phase, which is
in terms of, let me ask about the policies, or how punishment was carried out, because when you mentioned, okay, you got to get to the top of this hill, or you get wet and you got to eat an MRE, is that an individual punishment, or
yeah,
is
that's
that
right.
a, hey, if all of you don't do this, all of you are getting wet, and
No,
so that was an
no, that was,
individual thing?
yeah. The events before meals, the push-ups, pull-ups, dips, and the rope climb, frog run, those were individual. So if you failed one of those, it wasn't a performance fail. It was a, you're going to be wet and miserable and eating MRE. It's just like, you don't want to do it. You don't want to do that. There's nothing more you want than hot food and sitting in that hot chow hall
Yeah, right.
outside with, yeah. So it was just like a personal incentive, you might say. But they also hammered us as a class. Remember this, the Greek officer, whose name will be withheld out of due respect. he We were in getting ready to have a demo class. I'll never forget, because I loved it, because I thought it was cool to learn about explosives. That's just cool. And I don't know if it was C4 or claymores, or it was some kind of explosive class. And we're all sitting in the classroom, and one of the instructors comes in and is like, everybody drop down. Like, what now? I mean, it's one of those classes were one of those warm moments where at least you could sit and listen and try to stay awake.
Right.
So we're knocking him out, knocking out push-ups. And he's like, all right, everybody get wet and sandy and get back here. I'm like, can't end with push-ups. We got to get wet and sandy. So we race, sprint to the surf zone, sprint back. And now we're like, all right. And he's like, okay. And then there was the officer, the Greek officer. And he had an accent, of course, as all foreign people do, or foreign speaking people do. And he says, all right, Ensign, tell them why they're getting hammered. And he said, I was working on the grinder. And we were like, what? He goes, no, say it again. He goes, I was walking on the grinder. And what he was trying to articulate was he was walking on the grinder. We called the PT space, which was just a tarmac area, the grinder, which is because we always got pounded, push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups. And so he was walking across the grinder, and one of the instructors saw him. So you got to run everywhere. If you get caught walking, then everybody gets hammered.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an example where, thanks a lot. Now we're all wet and miserable, but we were all in it together. It wasn't we knew the deal. Like any of us did it. We all got
Right.
hammered. So
Right. It happens.
yeah.
You don't want to be, that guy though.
No,
You don't want to
no,
be that guy.
no, you do
It
not.
happens, but you don't want to be that guy. Okay.
That guy.
Okay. So now we're into phase 3. We're doing it.
Yeah.
We made it. We're phase 3. It's time to become
Phase
real
3.
frogmen here.
Yep.
So, what's that like? What's it?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That was the hardest for me, because I'll tell you why. So when you're in phase 3, and it's the same now that phase 2, the land warfare is now phase 3, but it doesn't matter. Number one, you've got your run times, obstacle course times, and 2-mile ocean swims are faster than ever. And they've got to keep getting faster. Remember, you can't ever go slower. So now you're just smoking everything, and it's got to get faster for 2 more months. So there's that. So you've got all the physical part that's still hard. Then you've got the hardest intellectual part of it, which was, we had diving medicine, diving physics. Archimedes principle, Boyle's law, Charles' law, Dalton's law. We're doing trigonometry and physics, and you enlisted has to score 80% or higher on the written exams. Officers had 90% or higher on written exams. And it's not easy, man. It's trigonometry. I've had easier courses in many college classes, plenty. So it was math basically and physics. So you're studying up till who knows when, until you get the material memorized so you can pass the exams. And then you're doing 2 dives a day sometimes. A morning dive, which is very rigorous. I mean, these closed circuit scuba systems, they take a toll on you. You get what's called popcorn ear, where the O2 causes your ears to like crinkle, crankle, and it's really messed up. A lot of guys get infections. You have to use dome burrow solution to keep your ears from just all totally waxing out on you. And then night dives, which are sometimes you're diving in the pitch black in the San Diego Bay with your buddy. It's kind of creepy anyway, and you know, you're dealing with this closed circuit scuba rig that is serious business. You can't mess around, or you could die actually
Right.
on this thing. So you get back, you know, you've done a day dive, you've done an obstacle course, you've done a 2-mile swim, you've studied, you've had classes, then you do a night dive, you get back, you field day your gear, you got to go through, clean all of your scuba gear, get your wetsuit cleaned and ready for tomorrow, and then back at the barracks by 11, 12, and then up at 8 a.m. Well, 4 a.m. for a beach run, and then a mile to chow, mile back, and then you got an exam you better pass. Physics. So to me, dive phase was the hardest. And then we had some things in there that were really hard, like pool comp, where basically you're in scuba gear and the instructors just attack the hell out of you, rip your mask off, turn your air off, and just beat the crap out of you and see if you can handle the pressure. I mean, we lost 2 guys that had made it that far. I mean, think about that. Actually, one guy, he failed pool comp and he was out of the teams. And then the other guy failed twice an exam. He couldn't get 80% or higher, and he was out. And they were hard guys by then, but it was like, shit, it isn't over till it's over. So
They were one. I mean, I'm assuming they got a retest,
yeah, they got
kind of a
retests.
standard military thing, but then
Yep.
they didn't get recycled. They got set straight
They
out.
were they were out. They were told. I remember one of the guys was really cool. He was a good buddy of mine, and we were in the same squad in second phase. And I remember just being really sad that he didn't make it, because he was just a good dude. And I said, well, what did they tell you? And he said, they told me I can come back in a year and start at first phase again.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to make it that far. So
Do you feel like you got comfortable in the water? I mean,
yeah,
or is that required? Like you're not passing that phase, that dive
yeah,
phase, unless you're able to get comfortable.
that's it. I
Yeah.
mean, because they do some insane thing underwater to where you're at the point of passing out, and sometimes you do pass out. So by the time if you make it through buds, once you make it through pool comp, you're cool, man. Underwater, you're like groovy, man. There's nothing I can't deal with underwater, pressure wise. And if you have to pass out, okay, so be it. I mean, it seems crazy, and it kind of is, but once you push it to like you get it to where you're just not scared in the water anymore. And I think that's by design, you know.
Hmm.
I, I don't know. I don't know how to. Yeah, they push you so many times to the limit of passing out, and like I passed out in doing that underwater swim thing. You got to swim some insane distance. Either there's 2 ways to pass, and this is first phase. I mean,
Hmm.
you either swim the distance, which is really hard. I mean, maybe a couple guys did it out of a lot of guys, but I went tits up, and I just remember waking up on the side of the pool, and they're like, "Get on all fours." Okay, you're good. Go sit in the bleachers. I'm like, what was that? And we called it shallow water blackout, but it's basically drowning underwater,
All right.
which goes against everything that seems normal. Like,
Right.
I need air now, but if you can keep yourself under, you either you swim the length of the pool and pass, or you don't come up and you're out, and then you pass. So one of the two ways.
So
So yeah,
then you're done.
and
And
you're
then
done.
and then you finish. So what's that, what's that like once you know that you've finished and you got the graduation date? I does anyone get do you all do was peer evaluations a part of the course at any phase
No,
where you would rate
no,
each other? No? Okay,
no,
interesting.
nope.
Um so no peers. Any folks get disappear right before graduation? Anything strange like that?
Not that I ever saw.
Okay.
I knew every guy, and I mean there was only 19 of us left,
Yeah.
originals.
Small group. Yeah.
So it was like, yeah, no, everybody was good, and we all went to airborne school together, which was kind of another cool thing because then we were strutting. We were like some strutting
Oh, I
roosters
bet.
going
I
down
bet.
to Fort Benning, down to Columbus, Georgia.
And buds and so when you graduate from buds, correct me if I'm wrong, you're not awarded the insignia at that point yet. And I think that's
No,
still the case now. Like buds,
right.
but you get a certificate, a handshake,
Yeah,
and then you
that's
move on
right.
to the next thing, right? Okay.
Yeah, which is airborne school. And then you get assigned a SEAL team, and then it's another over a year of advanced training, and then a lot of exams and a lot of before you get your trident. So you got to
Well,
kind of prove your chops.
we'll get more into that here
Yeah, yeah,
in a little bit. So, okay. I mean, what did it mean to you before, as we're closing out here? I mean,
yeah,
finishing up buds, what did that mean to you? What did that day mean to you?
yeah.
Um, what
Yeah, it
was it
was
like?
kind of surreal, man. It was kind of surreal because San Diego, every day is almost perfect. I mean, every now and then you get a rain shower, but it was this beautiful crystal blue day, and all the pomp and circumstance. My parents were there, my girlfriend was there, my sister, and it was like the proudest moment of my life. And my dad was just like beaming, like he when I first joined, he was like, "Yo, this is the stupidest thing you've ever done," and he was like, "My son made it through SEAL training. Oh my gosh, I'm so proud." And I mean, it was great. It really was, but it was also almost kind of anticlimactic. You've been through all of this, and just like, "Oh, thanks for my piece of paper." And you walk across the stage and it's like, all right, what's next? I guess how it is. And I remember you can ring the bell once you graduate. They have a bell, they have the bell there, and you ring it to say, now I'm ringing it on my way out. I never rang it in training. And
Right.
I didn't ring it. I didn't
You did.
touch that damn bell. I walked right by it. I'm like, I'm never ringing that bell. I don't care.
It
I
was
was
the
just
last test. It was the last test. They're like, all right, we formed two lines here. If you
I
rang the
know.
bell, go ahead, come over here. If you didn't,
Yeah.
remember.
I don't know. Maybe it was just my own just insanity, but I was like, I'm not touching that thing. And they didn't care. I mean, nobody cared, but I just
Yeah.
walked right by it.
I like that. I like that. That's a cool move.
But
Okay, that's it. We did it. We graduated buds. So what we'll do, so that's great. What we'll do is we'll give me a shot. We'll talk about we'll sort of juxtapose that against um the process that I had coming into the Ranger Battalion.
I got a
And
lot of questions for you now, so it's my turn to ask some
I'm
questions.
ready. I'm
All
ready. I'm
right.
an open book. I'm ready.
Awesome.
So thank you. Thanks to everybody listening, and we will catch you all in the next one later.